Now we are going to go over problem 2/3A, and it's about Bike Repair Service Company. It's a repair company. It provides service, and there is a trial balance December 31st, 2016. But before we move on with our questions, that I want to just do a journal entry for the 8 items um, in the book. So we're going to go to B instead of A. So let's have a look at what kind of transactions were there for this company. First, advertising costs paid in cash, $1,000. So that should be expense. So you should write advertisement expense, $1,000, and you paid in cash, so $1,000 cash out. And 2, it says additional supplies acquired on account, $4,000. Remember, on account is either AR or account payable. So additional supplies acquired, so you should write supplies, right? And on account, so you paid money but you haven't paid yet, so account payable. By how much? $4,000. Okay, third, miscellaneous expenses paid in cash, 1,100. So miscellaneous, what's miscellaneous? Is kita biyong. Okay, so that means anything else. Miscellaneous expense, which is 1,100, and you paid in cash, so you write cash on the credit side. Easy and simple, right? And 4, cash collected from customers in payment of account receivable, 13,000. That means customer has purchased product before and he hasn't paid yet. So you recorded it as an account receivable. Now you have to delete account receivable because you received cash. So you by crediting account receivable 13,000 and you received cash, you'll be able to cancel out the formal account receivable, right? If it's hard for you to understand, then let's say there was AR before. This isn't just an example. $20,000 and service revenue, $20,000. But you already recorded it like this. But you want to cancel this out because you received cash now. So in your hand, you will have AR 7,000 on the debit side. Okay? Okay. Number 5, there was a transaction, cash paid to creditors for account payable due $15,000. So that means you're going to have to pay cash. You paid cash to your not to your customers, but your what do you say? Can't think of the word. So basically, it's saying that you purchased something before, but you haven't paid it yet. But now you're going to pay it. So you're going to have to delete account payable by debiting it $50,000, and you're going to pay cash $15,000. If it's hard to understand, let's think of this. You purchased the furniture you purchase an equipment and you haven't paid cash, and you said you're going to pay it in 3 months. Okay, so you write it down account payable on the credit side. But in this amount, $50,000, you paid cash. But now, wait, let's say this was August 1st, and now after 1 month, you feel like you're going to have to pay this person, because you have to pay this person. You purchased something, so you're going to have to cancel the account payable, $50,000, and cash, $50,000. It will cancel out, and this equipment and cash is what you have in the end, right? Okay. Alright. And let's go to 6. Repair service performed during January for cash 5,000, on account 9,000. So that means there was a service revenue, right? And you received cash, 5,000, and you haven't paid cash. You were not paid cash yet, so account receivable, 9,000, and the service revenue should be 14,000. And for 7, wages first January paid in cash was $3,000. So it should be expense, salaries, and wages, expense by how much? $3,000. And you paid in cash, $3,000. And for 8, dividends during January were $2,000. So you paid dividend payment, $2,000, and you paid it in cash, $2,000. So these are your journal entry, and if you got it right, then you should have no problem writing trial balance. So let's go to A and write T account for each item. Okay, I already have spoken about T account. So for each item, for example, cash, account receivable, and all the other items in your journal entry, you have to write it down first, but you have to write the balance from the previous balance. So you have to write previous balance, which was 8,000 on the debit side for cash, and for AR there was balance of 16,000 on the debit side, 16,000 on the debit side, and for supplies there was a balance of 13,000 on the debit side, and there was a prepaid rent. Prepaid rent is basically you have already paid rent for the entire year, so that is your asset. You have right to use the land for a certain amount of time because you have already paid it. So anyways, balance was $3,000 on the debit side, and there was an equipment. Equipment is like machinery, computers, maybe an equipment, And account payable, there was $19,000 on the credit side. Um, there was a share capital ordinary, which was 33,000 on the credit side. And what else were there? Retained earnings. Retained earnings were, there was $12,000 on the credit side. And you also have to write down all other items that incurred during the year, such as dividend payments. Dividend payments was not on trial balance, right? But you have to write it down on your T account. What else were there? After one fiscal year, you have accumulated some service revenue, right? You have to write the service revenue. And you have to write all the expenses, advertising expenses. There was miscellaneous expenses, right? And there was also salaries and wages expenses. Here, see, salaries and wages expenses, miscellaneous expenses, advertisement expenses. So we look at our journal and then try to fill in our T account. Okay, so let's have a look at all the cash accounts. Okay, here cash, the first, cash, right, there are many caches. So we just simply put all the cash down. So first 1,000 on the credit side. 1,000. Check. And another 1,000. Oh, it should be 1,100. Sorry. 1,100. And 13,000 on the debit side. 15,000 on the credit side, 5,000 on the debit side, and 3,000 on the credit side, 2,000 on the credit side. And if you have to add all the debit and credit side together, and it will give you the ending balance. And the ending balance should equal 3,900. Okay, we did cash. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 cash items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because we have added balance in the beginning, it should be 8 items, right? And then let's have a look at the account receivable. Account receivable, I'll color it with purple. Account receivable, 9,000. Account receivable, 13,000 on the credit side. Okay, we only have 2 items. 9,000, 13,000. If we add all the debit and credit side, it should equal. It should not equal. It should give us a balance, and the balance is 12,000 on the debit side. We do the same thing for all other accounts. For supplies, we had 13,000 in the beginning, but we added 4,000 during the fiscal year. So we write down 4,000 on the debit side. Then will give us 17,000 on the debit side. maybe there was no supplies expenses and the company did not just bought papers and never used it. We don't know, but it's we can guess. We may guess. Anyways, for prepaid rent, there was no prepaid rent, right? So we would just leave it blank, and the balance should be 3,000 in the ending. Prepaid in the ending. And for equipment, we know that we have purchased some equipment or not. There was no equipment purchase, right? So we just leave it again blank. Account payable, there should be several. Here there is account payable 4,000 on the credit, account payable 15,000 on the debit. So account payable 4,000 and 15,000. It should give us a balance of $8,000 on the credit side. Okay? Once you find all the balance, you should underline it twice. Okay? To make sure that you have finalized the balance. For share capital ordinary, there was no issuance of ordinary shares, so it should be equal to $33,000 as it was in the beginning. And for retained earning, there was no, for retained earning, some of you calculated the retained earning by doing net income and going through retained earning statement and putting into this T account. Well, that is the opposite way. Why we are doing T account? We are just trying to see whether there was a mistake or anyways, you don't write retained earning, your calculated retained earning in your T account. You should just write $12,000. Okay, let's move on. And for your dividends, there was $2,000 dividend payment. And for service revenue, there was your 2,000 dividend payment. And service revenue, $14,000 on the credit side. Okay, $14,000. And advertising expense was the first item, so that was $1,000. Should be debited. And for miscellaneous, it was 1,100, and the balance should be like this. And for salaries and wages expenses was $3,000, right? So you write it like this. The balance is debited $3,000. That is your A and C. So after we are done with the T account, we are going to write trial balance. Okay. To see if all the numbers on the debit side and credit side are equal. So we write the company name, Byte, repair, service. This is limited, okay? Limited. Trial balance, January 31st, 2017. Okay, so we had cash, account receivable, supplies. We simply just write all the accounts that we know of in trial balance. Um, and prepaid rent, equipment. We also had account payable, and what else? Account payable, share capital ordinary, and we had retained earning, we had dividends, we had service revenue, and advertising expenses. Some of you have just accumulated all the expenses together and wrote it as one, but I recommend you to write it separately because they are all different expenses. Advertising expenses and miscellaneous expenses, salaries and wages expenses. Okay, then let's go to our T account and look at our balance, 3,900, right? So we write, let's write debit here and credit here, 3,900. Account receivable, we had 12,000, so 12,000. And for supplies, we had 17,000, and then we had prepaid rent. Is prepaid rent your asset or liability? Is your asset. You already paid your rent for a certain amount of time. So $3,000. For equipment, how much money we had? $24,000. For account payable, it was $8,000. And share capital ordinary, $33,000. Retained earning, $12,000. My phone's ringing, I'm sorry. For dividend, $2,000. Advertising expense, $1,000. Miscellaneous, remember it was 1,100. And salaries and wages expenses, it was 3,000. And service revenue was $14,000. Okay, now we add all these debit and credit side together. So if we add all the debit side, it should give us 67,000, and if we add all the credit side, it should give us 67,000. If the numbers match, then you know that you have journalized it correctly. So after you're done with your trial balance, I recommend you to write down two lines in your finalized number to show that the numbers are finalized and numbers are equal, matching the debit and the credit side. Okay, that's problem 2/3, trial balance. And a lot of you, some of you have mistakenly calculated the retained earning for this month and added to this retained earning. But for your trial balance, the purpose is just you're trying to see if you have made mistake in your journal. So, and you have added, and by looking at trial balance, you know that all the items, income and financial account, financial statement, income and financial statement items are all in the trial balance, right? So you don't add retained earnings in your trial balance. Anyways, thank you for listening, and I'll move on to the next problem. Okay.